Smart home builds and upgrades are one of my favorite things to do. So today, I'm back at my brother's house for a version 3.0 upgrade. After our last build, you guys had a lot to say, and we've listened to a lot of your feedbacks. We're going to be making some next-gen improvements of our own as well. We're not just going to be optimizing the network, we're going to be making some big changes. We're going to be implementing AI security cameras, full Wi-Fi 7 networking, and we're going to be implementing 10 gig to every device that supports it. We're also going to be replacing some of the audio equipment in that rack and making some server changes. We're also going to be making an highly controversial change to the network rack that many of you guys have always said about my rack setup and my brother's rack setup all the way from version 1. We're finally going DAC cable. We're going to be replacing the fiber SFP with this guy. We're listening to you guys and it just looks much cleaner as well, so we're going DAC anyways. I'm excited to show you guys what we're about to do, so come with me and let's get started on this work.
Winter gave us a real warm day, so we took the chance to start out outside with security upgrades. The first thing we tackled was the cameras. We replaced the existing G4 units with the Unify AI Pro camera. The swap was painless because the AI Pro uses the same mounting procedure. The same holes, same gasket, same footprint. The new black version blends perfectly with the black soffit, so the camera looks cleaner and far less noticeable. Adoption into the Protect app was instant. And right away, the AI Pro fixed something that always bothered me about the G4 Pro, aiming the security camera. The new vertical adjustment screws gives you precise control instead of fighting the housing. Both the G4 and the AI Pro shoot in 4K with optical zoom, but the AI Pro steps ahead in image quality, low light performance, HDR, and nighttime clarity. It also supports Protect's advanced AI features. The G4 line can detect objects, but the AI Pro integrates with Unify's recognition system, which can identify faces and log license plates over time. At night, the AI Pro is even better. It has a longer IR range and produces much clearer footage. After the camera, we moved on to the basement door, where we installed a G4 doorbell along with the chime. The house was pre-wired with Ethernet, which makes installation clean and reliable. The only tricky part was cutting the holes for the chime kit. Unify tells you the hole saw size, but they don't include a template. Most recessed lights and in-wall speakers include one, and it makes positioning super easy. Without that template, we had to measure everything out, mark the circles ourselves, and cut it manually with a drywall knife. A simple paper guide would have made the process way more faster. And just like the camera, the doorbell and the chime appeared in the Protect app right away. The G4 doorbell has two cameras, one for visitor and one angle down for packages, with a tiny night light to help illuminate the area at night. There's also a fingerprint reader built into the doorbell. It's designed for Unify access, but we ran it through scripted and brought it into Apple Home. Now a fingerprint scan unlocks my brother's Schlage and code door. It gives him the convenience of a fingerprint smart lock without changing the hardware. Inside the house, we started by upgrading the Wi-Fi. We swapped out the U6 in-wall wireless access points for the new U7 in-wall Pro models, and this is the first time the house is getting Wi-Fi 7. That upgrade lays the groundwork for much higher speeds, lower latency, and a noticeably more responsive smart home experience. The U6 model had 4 Ethernet ports, including one that could supply power over Ethernet. The U7 version doesn't have those ports, which can feel like a step back, especially in spaces where hard wiring is very useful. I'm still hoping Unify introduces a U7 in-wall model that brings those ports back. The in-wall lineup remains one of the easiest ways to add access points to existing homes, because most rooms already have Ethernet behind the wall plate. In the office, which is the busiest spot in the whole network, we installed the Unify E7 wireless access point. This is their top tier Wi-Fi 7 access point with tri-band support and a 10 gig PoE++ uplink. It's built for heavy use, large file transfers, automations, streamings, and dozens of devices running all at once. It also includes real-time spectral analysis to help diagnose interference. Before touching anything, we backed up the UDM Pro so we could restore everything onto the new UDM Pro Max. With the backup done, we tore the rack down and started rebuilding it from scratch.
We finally got around to doing the install for the outdoor access point, but unfortunately the cable is not long enough, which means that I can't mount this. I have to be back in my city tonight because I have to work tomorrow. So unfortunately we're gonna have to pause this for now, and then we'll do this a little bit later and just focus on trying to get other stuff inside done.
The very first thing we installed back into the rack was the new high density Unify PDU. It mounts vertically and runs the entire power distribution for the rack, with 24 individually controllable outlets and a couple of USB-C ports, so every device can be powered and managed from one place. Once the PDU was in place, we moved on to the network stack. We started at the very top with a 24-port patch panel, and then we mounted the Pro HD 24-port Pro PoE switch below it. This switch brings 22 2.5 gig PoE++ ports, two 10 gig PoE++ ports, and four 10 gig SFP+ uplink ports, all powered by a 600 watts budget. Below the switch, we added a 1U blank space to maintain airflow. Right under the open space, we mounted the UDM Pro Max in the center of the rack. Placing it here lets both switches uplink directly into it without daisy chaining, which isolates future failure domains. If one switch ever goes offline, the other one stays up, keeping the core resilient and easier to maintain. Under the UDM Pro Max, we added another patch panel, and below that, the 48-port Etherlightning switch. This switch adds more 10 gig uplinks and Etherlightning indicators, which makes identifying connections easier in a fully loaded rack. Once the core network gear was in, we moved on to the supporting hardware around it. We added a dedicated shelf for the Apple TV feeding the theater next door, the Lutron hub controlling the lights and shades, and the compact mini PC. Below that, we replaced the fixed printer tray with a pull-out model. The fixed tray made scanning difficult, but the pull-out tray gives full access without fighting the rack. Under the printer sits the Xbox, and right below that, the PlayStation 5, both feeding the theater room next door.
They each directly connect to one of the 6 HDMI ports on the receiver, including the Apple TV.
Hardwiring them directly into the switch keeps latency low and avoids wireless streaming issues. Below the console, we mounted two Unify power amps on a solid tray. These amps drive the office ceiling speakers and the deck speakers, replacing a Sonos amp. Under the amps, we installed the Pioneer VSX 935 receiver on a heavy-duty tray. It's a full surround receiver and needs proper support. Below the receiver sits the Zima Cube NAS, which handles file storage, backups, and streaming. To finish the rack visually, we added blank plates between the amplifier tray and the receiver, and another between the receiver and the NAS. We used Unify's blank 24-port Keystone panel to fill unused openings, snapped in Keystone blanks where we didn't need connections, added pass-through inserts where cables needed to route to the front, and put LG45 dust covers on unused switch ports to keep everything clean and uniform. Those little touches are what makes the rack feel finished instead of just assembled. At the very bottom of the rack, we installed the Cyber Power UPS, the one compatible with the Unify's PDU 30-amp inlet. Finding that specific UPS in Canada was a challenge, but pairing it with the PDU means the entire rack can shut down gracefully during outages. With the physical build complete, the last step was actually feeding the PDU and the UPS with power. Because they both use L530P, a 120 volts 30-amp twist lock plug, the house didn't have a matching outlet. So after the rack was built, we opened up the drywall, round the wires from the rack location back to the electrical panel, and then had an electrician install an L530R receptacle on a single pole 30-amp breaker, which is the correct setup for a 120 volts 30-amp circuit. The ISP modem is a massive coax-based unit and took up way too much space inside the rack. So instead of forcing it in, we moved it across the room onto a 5-tier storage shelf, the same area where he keeps his ASCII bench and tools. That shelf basically became the miscellaneous station for devices that don't need precious rack space. We also moved the mini display to this area. Instead of sitting inside the rack, it's now mounted cleanly on the wall above the bench, with the keyboard and mouse stored right on the ASCII bench. This freed up rack space and made it much easier to access when troubleshooting. We ran a long HDMI cable from the mini display back to the mini PC. That cable can be easily switched to any device in the rack that needs quick on-screen diagnostics. With the rack fully assembled and powered, the last step in the security upgrade was adding sensors. UNIFI's all-in-one Protect sensor connects through the SuperLink gateway or a U6 access point with Bluetooth. SuperLink acts like a long-range, low-latency wireless bridge for these sensors and can run on Ethernet or USB-C. As soon as SuperLink powered up, it appeared in the Protect app. We mounted the all-in-one sensor on the door leading into the room, the perfect spot to track motion, door open or close state, temperature, humidity, ambient light, and loud alarm sounds. With power sorted out, we adopted the UDM Pro Max, the new brain of the network. Onboarding was quick. Bluetooth setup in the UNIFI app, then restoring the cloud backup to bring back the VLANs, SSIDs, Protect settings, and more. Compared to the original UDM Pro, the Max brings a faster CPU, 5 gigs of IDS IPS throughput, dual drive bays for Protect storage, and a 2.5 gig WAN port. Perfect timing since the house has a 1.5 gig fiber plan the old UDM Pro couldn't fully utilize. With the network core complete, we set up the UNIFI Power app. Configuration runs through the UNIFI Play app, giving access to tuning controls and channel management. We wired the left and right channels for the office ceiling speakers. Power amp supports eARC, HDMI, and subwoofer output. To finish off the system, we looked at the server. My brother had been running on RAID for a while based on my recommendation, but it's not always the most user-friendly. So we tested the Zima Cube, a compact 4-bay NAS with 2 NVMe slots running Zima OS. We wanted to see if it could handle Plex, Home Assistant, scripted, and network storage all under one device. We'll need more time with this, but it's already looking like a promising alternative for people who want something that's easier to manage than on RAID.
For the network configuration, we created 7 VLANs. This helps group similar devices together and apply policies to those devices like restrict access to the internet like in the case of IoT VLAN, or control multicast traffic in the case of a media VLAN, or enforce strict security policies like in the case of the main VLAN, or isolate traffic like in the case of the native VLAN. Having this many VLANs requires a bit more management overhead, as you have to understand what devices you have in your environment and where they should fit. But it is the price you pay for managing your own enterprise-like network that companies typically have IT departments manage. But once it's all set up right, you're secured and good to go. You can apply things like the new zone-based firewall and do custom things like VPN only for specific devices like streaming sticks. There's just so much control that having a system like this gives you. For example, when the Amazon AWS server went down, there was zero impact here because all files are stored locally, multimedia is hosted locally, and there is no subscription service.
And that wraps up Upgrade 3.0. Let me know what you think of this build and what you'll add or change. I've also just completed Upgrade 3.0 on my own smaller rack. Perfect if you're building on a tighter budget. Check out the video down here. Alright guys, I'll catch you in the next one.